Right now, on to the point. New developments in Sheriff Chad Bianco's special election investigation as legal battles heat up.
We're asking the Supreme Court to intervene.
Tonight, backlash growing as the FBI reportedly plans to release years-old case files about Congressman Eric Swalwell and a suspected Chinese spy. A debate over AI growing at the state capitol, lawmakers pushing for new rules to protect workers, and astronauts gearing up for a historic return to the moon.
The crew's ready, the rocket's ready, the spaceship's ready.
And what it means for a future mission to Mars. Well, the fight continues in court tonight after Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco seized hundreds of thousands of ballots to investigate potential voter fraud. As always, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. Weeks after Bianco's office collected boxes of ballots from last November's Prop 50 election, and Attorney General Rob Bonta sent letters and filed a petition to stop the investigation, things now appear to be paused. I want to bring in ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen, who is here with the latest updates on this case and also the investigation.
Alex, just today, Sheriff Chad Bianco told ABC 10 he is putting a hold on his investigation into claims of election fraud. This comes after the Attorney General and the UCLA Voting Rights Project filed with the courts to demand Bianco to stop his investigation. Now, even though this fight is far from over, the Voting Rights Project believes so far this is a win for them.
There are specific procedures that are in place to ensure that the secrecy of the ballots and the integrity of the elections are preserved.
And those specific procedures are what the UCLA Voting Rights Project wants Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco to abide by during this contentious election season. Partnered with the former Attorney General and gubernatorial candidate Javier Becerra, the organization filed this petition to stop Sheriff Bianco from seizing any additional ballots.
We're asking the Supreme Court to intervene, and the more ballots being seized, again, the more mishandling of the ballots that are happening. And again, that's a huge threat to the integrity of the election and the integrity of any recount that takes place.
Bianco, who is also a leading Republican candidate for governor, first publicly announced on March 20th he's investigating allegations of miscounted ballots in Riverside County in the November 2025 special election.
An audit of those logs received from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters allegedly shows 611,428 ballots were cast, but 657,322 votes were reported and certified to the Secretary of State. That is a difference of 45,896 votes.
Sheriff Bianco would not do an interview with ABC 10 Monday for this story, but provided a statement that says, quote, "We are on hold because of the politically motivated lawsuits and court filings. We also asked Attorney General Rob Bonta for an interview, but he declined." His office tells ABC 10 that Attorney General Bonta has filed a petition to stop the investigation in Riverside County and the California Supreme Court. Both cases are being heard this week. While these legal battles continue, the Voting Rights Project believes Bianco pausing this investigation is a good sign.
I think it's a win if these ballots are handled with the respect and care that the election code requires. That's a win to us, because that is what we're looking for.
And we also learned in Rob Bonta's petition in Riverside County last week that Bianco had seized an additional 426 boxes of ballot materials last week, utilizing a third search warrant. But again, Alex, Bianco says right now this investigation is on hold.
All right, Jeannie, we will continue to follow this and we'll keep you updated. Thank you. All right, for the first time in a month and a half, some TSA workers are starting to get their paychecks. President Donald Trump promised to pay them with the Department of Homeland Security still shut down after running out of funding 45 days ago. The DHS says that most workers will receive at least 2 full paychecks for the past 2 pay periods. But that's not all the money that they've missed out on. And some workers, according to DHS, may see some delays in getting those payments.
It is better than not having anything, but I don't think it's going to change the needle very much on the lines. The officers that left are not coming back.
It has been very hard for a lot of those officers. The agency even saying that more than 500 officers have quit since the partial shutdown. The DHS says around 10.5% of TSA officers called out on Sunday, leading to some of the longest security lines at some airports. Now, Congress has failed multiple times on reaching a deal to fund DHS, and now they're on a break for 2 weeks. This partial shutdown is already considered the longest in U.S. history, but one local lawmaker is now urging Congress to remain in session. Today, Congressman Kevin Kiley released a statement calling on the House as well as the Senate to reconvene until the Department of Homeland Security shutdown is resolved. Take a look at what he had to say. In a statement, he said in part, quote, "At a time when our national security and essential services are at stake, lawmakers should be doing everything possible to reach a solution. TSA agents and the American people have already felt the consequences of this gridlock for far too long. The two chambers and the two parties must stop blaming one another and instead focus on finding common ground." Tonight, sources tell ABC News that the FBI is preparing to release a decade-old case file investigating Congressman Eric Swalwell's involvement with a suspected Chinese spy. Reporter Monica Madden explains why some people are questioning the timing of this release.
Congressman Eric Swalwell slamming the Trump administration Monday amid reports the FBI is resurfacing a closed counterintelligence probe into him.
We are here today because of absolute nonsense.
The records relate to a decade-old investigation into a suspected Chinese spy who previously volunteered for Swalwell's 2014 re-election campaign. Swalwell was cleared of wrongdoing, and House Republicans closed an ethics probe in 2023.
This case is closed, but this effort to weaponize the FBI against the president's political enemy at a time that we are at war shows a distraction.
Swalwell did not directly mention the allegations to reporters in San Francisco on Monday, but stressed the political implications.
Trump and Patel are trying to interfere in the California election. That's why they're targeting me. I'm the only name in the race that they know, the only one that they're threatened by.
House Judiciary Democrats coming to his defense, with ranking member Jamie Raskin writing, quote, "This is plain weaponization of the FBI for partisan political purposes."
The irony is that this will probably help him more than hurt him with the voters that matter in the upcoming primary.
A vocal Trump critic, Swalwell is a leading candidate in the California Democratic primary for governor, which ABC 7 News insider Phil Matier says might be advantageous.
For Eric Swalwell, having a Trump attack like this is actually bona fide, that he is a legitimate warrior, that he is really battling, that the Trump administration fears him. It's a one-upsmanship, and that's why he's touting the fact, rather than getting into the details of what might be in the investigation, but saying that the investigation is in fact the story itself.
It's not the first time the Trump administration has gone after the congressman who led Trump's first impeachment. And Matier says it likely won't be the last.
We're going to be entering that second part of the race where we've done the niceties, we've said our policy papers. Now it's time to get personal, and that usually means mudslinging.
And today, Swalwell's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter demanding that the FBI Director Kash Patel immediately end any effort to release records from that decade-old investigation. All right, let's get into the latest in the war in Iran. It's now in its fifth week. There are various diplomatic efforts to end the war. Pakistan's foreign minister says that he expects the U.S. and Iran to meet for talks in the coming days. President Trump says he's also threatening to expand U.S. strikes against Iran if negotiations fail. Iran's neighbors, including the King of Jordan and the Emir of Qatar, are meeting in Saudi Arabia to discuss the war in Iran. This is President Trump on social media says the U.S. is currently engaged in, quote, serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime and our military operations in Iran.
When the president says more reasonable, again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth because they lied to the United States.
Meanwhile, the U.S. continues its troop buildup in the Middle East. 3,500 sailors and Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit are now in the region. The White House continues to say President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in the region. And the price of gas has continued to go up $1.01 since the fighting in Iran started back on February 28th. According to AAA, the average U.S. gas price edged up about 1 cent today. In California, the average price of a gallon of regular gas is about $5.87. Diesel even more, sitting at $7.36. And more price increases could be on the way in the coming days. I know we're all definitely feeling that. All right, still ahead on To the Point, astronauts are heading back to the moon. A look at the mission to send a crew farther into space than ever before. And then some updates here. Green card holders could lose access to loans from the Small Business Administration, what this means for immigrant entrepreneurs and also our state's economy.
And we're finally entering a cooler stretch of weather. It doesn't last too long, but it will bring us some showers, some snow showers, possibly some thunderstorms too. I've got to have a look at the forecast after the break.
But first, in other headlines tonight, the man who crashed his pickup truck into a Detroit area synagogue earlier this month was carrying out an attack inspired by Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. That's according to the FBI. The new information released today says the man made a video just before the attack saying he wanted to, quote, kill as many of them as possible. Investigators say he fatally shot himself during the March 12th attack. The Supreme Court will hear President Trump's birthright citizenship order on Wednesday. The order, introduced on Trump's second inauguration day, denies U.S. citizenship to children born in the U.S. to people who are in the country illegally or temporarily. The Trump administration is arguing the jurisdiction part of the 14th Amendment that states persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. And a new airport in India could become the busiest airport in the world. Noida International Airport opened this weekend. Officials say it might be able to accommodate 70 million travelers by 2050. They say its location south of New Delhi makes it easier for tourists to visit the Taj Mahal. Flights are set to start next month. NASA is hoping that it will lead another giant leap for mankind. The space agency is preparing for a historic launch to the moon with Artemis II, the Artemis II mission. Preparation is underway for the crew of Artemis II ahead of the first human moon mission in more than 50 years. Now, the crew of 4 astronauts are set to blast off on a 10-day, 685,000-mile journey deeper into space than ever before to the moon. They're expected to slingshot around the far side of it and then head back to Earth. NASA says that the mission is a major step in returning humans to lunar exploration and one day to Mars. Their launch window for Artemis II is this Wednesday. If, of course, given the all clear, they got to check and make sure there's no weather or technical issues that could delay it. And on that note, I do want to bring in Brendan because you can actually show us the flight path, right?
Yeah, that's right. And this is going to be familiar if you are a history buff, especially with the Apollo missions. This was done twice in the Apollo missions. One was planned, Apollo 8, before we even landed on the moon, and then the unplanned Apollo 13 that had to change its course after a couple days in space. So here's a map. After liftoff of Artemis II on Wednesday, it's going to orbit the Earth one time. It's going to build up speed, give system checks, make sure everything is good to go. Then about 25 hours after launch, we're going to get the translunar injection. So that's when they're going to fire the engines on the service module in the upper stage, and it's going to push Artemis II out of Earth orbit and in towards the moon. Then once we get about 4 or 5 days after liftoff, it's going to get grabbed by the moon's gravity and swung around the far side of the moon. This is what Apollo 8 did and what Apollo 13 did. It's just a flyby. We're not getting close to the moon and we're not going to land on the moon. Then Monday, April 6th, after it orbits the moon once, we're doing the trans-Earth injection, and Artemis II is headed back towards Earth with splashdown in the Pacific expected on Friday, April 10th. Now, remember, it's going to get close to the moon, but not real close. Here's a closer look. This is the moon. That's where the Apollo missions orbited, just about 60, 70 miles off the surface of the moon. Here's where Artemis II is going to go around the moon, 4,000 to 5,000 miles away. So Apollo 13, the astronauts there currently hold the record for furthest humans from Earth. Artemis is going to beat them by a lot, Artemis II. So pretty impressive stuff coming up, and it is an opportunity to get us towards the moon. Now, let's talk a little weather here. We do have a system coming in. All the rain right now is off to the north of us, but we are going to end up seeing some rain here within the next 24 hours. 74 right now in Sacramento. We're going to start off Tuesday morning in the 50s with some showers up in the high country, then scattered showers across the valley Tuesday afternoon, maybe an isolated thunderstorm, temperatures in the 60s. So a big change from where we've been. It's been a while since we've seen rain and snow on Futurecast, but that's what we've got for Tuesday and for Wednesday. But it doesn't last very long, and it's not going to be a lot. We're talking about a tenth or two of rain in the valley, maybe 6 inches of snow in the high country. But look at that, Alex, we're back in the 80s for Easter weekend.
All right, that'll be nice to have that rain clear out. Thank you, Brendan. Right after the break, the fight over artificial intelligence is heating up at the state capitol. When we come back, the new rules that lawmakers are pushing to protect workers. And then a big change for retirement funds when your 401k could soon include crypto, private equity, and more. Is growing in the California legislature. This, as a Stanford University study says, that states are leading the way on AI-related legislation, not the federal government. ABC 10 State Matters political reporter Jenny Hubb breaks down the increased political pressure facing our state leaders.
Artificial intelligence is taking front and center stage in California politics.
We have to have some basic protections and rules of the road so folks know what they can and cannot do.
Democratic State Senator Christopher Cabaldon is one of dozens of legislators pushing dozens of AI-related bills.
And frankly, a lot of the AI companies, they're trapped on this hamster wheel, but they're worried if they don't do that one next thing, that one of their competitors will.
Current efforts focused on the use of AI in the workforce. One bill seeks to prohibit the use of worker data to train AI tools if the goal is to eventually automate that job.
California workers should not be forced to unknowingly train their own replacements while corporations profit.
Another would require employers to disclose when AI is used in the workplace.
This bill does not try to limit or prohibit employers from using these technologies. It's all about a well-informed consumer in the employee in the workplace.
But that is the very opposition facing AB 1898.
Current broad nature of it and the current litigation risks that it would create indirectly would prohibit the use of a lot of these technologies.
Similar to why Governor Gavin Newsom last year vetoed Senate Bill 7, an effort to prevent using AI for automated decision-making in employment decisions like hiring and firing. Newsom said the language was too broad and could stifle the use and innovation of AI.
He's used the term innovation to veto a lot of bills dealing with big tech and putting on guardrails around AI. And so we think it's time for him to take a step back.
Labor holds significant political influence in California. Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher is one of the most powerful labor leaders and had supported SB 7. This year, Gonzalez is supporting AB 1898 by Assemblymember Nick Schultz and has a strong warning message for California's elected officials.
What really matters is how these legislators represent the working people in their districts.
But on the other side stands big tech, spending an unprecedented amount of money to back pro-AI candidates and oppose regulations. According to Cal Matters, major tech-related companies spent more than $39 million to influence state politics last year. Companies like Meta have also contributed directly to the campaigns of state legislators of both parties.
For 15, 20 years, big tech was sitting very pretty in the state of California, where they were creating new jobs and new opportunities, and they were driving the tax. I think right now we're in a moment of reckoning.
It's a good reminder that anytime you take a contribution from any source, the public can rightfully ask, what is that potential influence on you as a legislator?
Jenny Hubb, ABC 10.
And we want to mention that today, Governor Newsom signed an executive order to increase accountability for artificial intelligence companies. And jumping into your price points, green card holders no longer qualify for loans from the Small Business Administration. The SBA limited access to its loans to U.S. citizens and nationals starting in March and expanded that policy to SBA-backed loans beginning in April. Also, any businesses that are even partly owned by a permanent legal resident with a green card is no longer eligible for the loan. California could be the most affected. The state has the most small businesses and the largest immigration population in the nation. Now, according to the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, small business owners are responsible for 99% of net new jobs in the state. Immigrant entrepreneurs, make up 40% of the state's business community and generated $28.4 billion in 2023. That's according to GoBiz, which is the governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. The Labor Department has a new plan that could change your 401k investments. Take a listen to this. The proposed rule would give retirement fund participants the option of investing in private equity and other alternatives like crypto and commodities. Those industries who have long sought to be part of lucrative workplace retirement plans, although employers have always had the option to include such investments in their retirement funds, few have actually done so. Such investments are typically more complicated and expensive than publicly traded options and open employers up to potential litigation. Despite the new rule, you may not see any new changes anytime soon. Right after the break, same date, new holiday. What you need to know about Farm Workers Day. And one last thing before we leave you tonight, a reminder that tomorrow, March 31st, is a state holiday. It is Farm Workers Day. This is the holiday that was known as Cesar Chavez Day. California lawmakers recently voted to rename it after allegations against the labor leader of sexual assault surfaced. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.